In 2019, I made the massive mistake of selling my quadplex. Sure, I made a huge profit, but if I knew then what I know now, I would have never sold it. The truth is that experienced real estate investors rarely, if ever, sell their properties. Hopefully you will understand a little bit more about real estate investing before this is over. Hey everyone, the fact that you clicked on this video makes me appreciate you even more than I already did, and I thank you for that. If you are new to this channel, my name is Brad, and my main goal is to be as transparent as possible with my finances. Now would be a great time to subscribe to this channel if you want to see monthly net worth updates, different ways that I invest, and different ways that I make money. Getting back to the main topic, why experienced real estate investors never sell their properties. Before you jump down my throat, I get it. Yes, even experienced real estate investors sell their properties for various reasons. But I really want to let it be known that there are a few good reasons that you would want to hold on to your properties. Keep watching if you are ready to find out. The first and one of the biggest reasons that real estate investors rarely sell their properties is tax deferment. If you own an investment property and never sell it, guess what? You never have to pay taxes on the sale. It might seem pretty obvious, but this is a massive reason to keep your investment property, especially if the property is bringing you an income. Of course, there is the option of doing a 1031 exchange, which we will get to later in this video. When you own a piece of investment property, if it is managed properly, it is essentially just a cash box that is throwing money at you each month. What's not to like about that? The second reason that investors rarely sell their properties is asset value. Let me explain a little bit further. If you buy a property at 20% down for $500,000, and 10 years later is worth $1 million, you now have a massive chunk of equity, roughly worth $670,000, depending on a few different factors. Now, you have a couple of options. You can sell the property for $1 million and take the profits, but you'll have to pay realtor fees and taxes on top of that. But for the experienced real estate investor, you have another option that I wish that I chose on my quadplex that I sold in 2019, and that is a cash out refinance. Sure, you would not get quite as big of a chunk as if you sold it, but guess what? You don't have to pay a dime of tax on that money. Here's what that would look like with a valuation of $1 million. You contact the bank, initiate the loan, the bank takes 20% off the top, the remainder of the initial loan gets paid off, and you keep the rest. So a little bit of quick math here. You would get $800,000 minus $330,000, or the remainder of the loan, and you keep the rest, which is $470,000 in cash. But the best part is that you get to keep the cash flowing property, and 10 years later, you can rinse and repeat. I have to ask you, how long do you think that you could live your current lifestyle if you had $470,000 in cash? For me personally, that is almost 10 years worth of expenses. I know investors whose main strategy is to own a select few properties and then refinance every 5 to 10 years, depending on the rates at the time. The third reason that investors rarely sell their investment properties is that investment properties allow for many income tax reductions. There are too many to list here, but the main few are being able to deduct your operating expenses, deduct your mortgage interest, and depreciation reduction. The IRS allows for investment property owners to deduct the cost of their investment property over the course of 27.5 years, which includes things like wear and tear, roofs, appliances, and any other upkeep that you could think of. In my first 2 years of owning my quadplex, I ended up paying $0 in income tax from the rental income of the property. This is because I heavily renovated it and ended up spending a lot of money on it. You might ask, why does it matter if you paid no income tax on the property if you already spent so much money on it? Well, this goes back to the previous reason why investors rarely sell their properties. By doing those renovations, I was able to increase the rent by $450 per unit, bringing the total value of the property up by about $250,000. Ultimately, I eventually sold the property, but I will admit, at the time, I was not as experienced as I am now with real estate investing. Now, I promised you that I would touch back on 1031 exchanges. You can find plenty of information on these by doing a quick Google search, but even though these require a sale of a property, I am still lumping them into this video because it further proves my point. What a 1031 exchange does is allow you to sell your current property and purchase a new property without being taxed on the sale of your first property. Technically, the tax on the sale is just deferred, but if you never sell your investment properties or continue to do 1031 exchanges, then you are never taxed. What I see a lot of experienced investors do that have already made big money on more risky investments is purchase a triple net lease property with a 1031 exchange. Think of something like a Starbucks with a 20-year lease that is backed by corporate. Not a bad way to roll over into a new property with a 1031 exchange. Doing a 1031 exchange is almost like an art, and by the time you're ready to do one, you will be experienced yourself. So this is just something to keep on the back burner for now. Hey, real quick, thanks so much for watching up to this point in the video. I love you all, and I wanted to encourage you to subscribe to this channel if this is the type of content that you are interested in. Don't forget to head over to my channel and check out my latest monthly net worth update after this video ends. If you want to help this channel be in favor of the algorithm, please like, share, and comment on this video. It helps way more than you think. Likely, if you made it this far, you are a little bit more well-versed on the main reasons that experienced real estate investors never or rarely sell their properties. At the end of the day, investment properties can be used as your own personal bank if you time it properly and don't overdo it. Just be mindful of the pitfalls of over leveraging. We don't have time in this video to get into the different scenarios that can happen when over leveraging. But just as an example, I've heard of real estate investors that will refinance every 2 years just to get a few $1,000s out of their property. Ultimately, this can come back to bite them if they don't have enough cash on hand, if something unfortunate happens to the property, or they have a bunch of vacancies. Let's quickly do a recap of reasons a real estate investor would not sell their property. At number 1, we had tax deferment. Just think of it this way: if you never sell a property, you will never be taxed on the sale. I know this is extremely obvious, but it brings us to the next point, which is asset value. You can use the value of your property to take loans against it, which will give you more cash to do what you want, while keeping the cash flowing property. At number 3, we had various ways of depreciating your asset, while also writing off taxes for a multitude of different things related to your property. Finally, we touched on 1031 exchanges, which will help you purchase a new property without paying taxes on the sale of your previous property. As I mentioned previously, this is technically just deferring your taxes, but if you never sell, you will never be taxed on the sale. I am interested to hear what you all have to say about the benefits of owning real estate. What other reasons do you think are important to consider before selling your property? That's it for now. Until next time, keep at it.